Hi, I'm John Howard with the Butch Whitfield Group of Harry Norman Realtors.
Hi, and my name's Butch Whitfield, and today we're in Piedmont Park.
Yes, one of the most beautiful parks in the city. Well, actually, with the largest parks.
The largest formal. They're opening another one called Bell's Quarry Park on the west side. They've purchased the land, they're flooding the reservoir, and that's a whole nother park, which hopefully will take you there soon when they open up the gates.
Absolutely. Well, this park dates back over 200 years ago, the origins of around 1822. But in 1834, Samuel and Sarah Walker bought the park, the land around it, for $450. At that point, it was just a big forest area. So they cleared out the land, they built a cabin right in the active circle.
Now the active oval, as many call it, is in the central part of the park. It's right there off of Piedmont, and that's one of three distinct areas of the park. There's also the meadow, which is behind us, and then a recreation area off of 10th Street, which is just west of that.
That's right. In 1857, their son, Dr. Benjamin Walker, he purchased the land from the father, and he built his own cabin right where the Piedmont Driving Club is located.
Now, it got the name the Driving Club. I'm sure you've heard of this because people would drive here from downtown. It was really at the height of its popularity right after 1901 when the automobile was introduced. So people, the affluent Atlantans from downtown, would drive to the Driving Club, and it was known as more of a sportsman club. So there was racing, well, a sportsman club. It's still affluent and popular to this day.
Many fairs and expositions were held here. In 1887, the Piedmont Exposition was held. And then later in 1895 was a World's Fair type exposition called the Cotton States and International Exposition.
Those two really put Piedmont Park, not only Piedmont Park, but really Atlanta on the map. 100,000 people came in it was 100 days, and it was very popular. A lot of temporary structures were built that you don't see to this day. We really only see the elements of the terracing for the different structures, and a lot of staircases, which you'll walk through the park and see beautiful staircases that really lead not to nowhere, but now just open areas. And some of these staircases will also lead to the Botanical Garden, which sits to the north, more of the central part of the park, but up on the little knoll. We can get into that later when we do another tour of that, but it's a large, wonderful area with atrium, water gardens, ornamental, and a chef's garden too.
And the park was essentially known as kind of a sporting events center for the city of Atlanta. They had horse racing, they had the first game of what's become the oldest intercollegiate football rivalry in the South, Georgia versus Auburn, which is now called the Deep South's oldest rivalry. And in 1902 through 1904, Atlanta's first professional baseball team played here, called
the Atlanta Crackers. Since then they've been named the Atlanta Braves, which is another controversy in itself right now, but to this point they're keeping the name, and they are located north of town in SunTrust, I guess now Truist Park.
So in the early 1900s, the city of Atlanta thought multiple times about purchasing the park, but it was a little bit far out. We're about a mile from downtown. And in 1904, they finally came to agreement, and they purchased the land and the park and what it's become today.
Currently, it's shut off to all vehicles. Back in the day on these roads, you could drive through the park and have picnics and that kind of thing. However, now it's completely shut off to vehicles, and this is the epicenter for all of the spring and even fall festivals, which as soon as this weather warms up, pretty much about the time the dogwoods are blooming, are when the first festivals start, and that's set off by the Dogwood Festival. And this is, again, an arts festival. A lot of these artists you can catch in the other surrounding neighborhood festivals until about June.
That's right. Another significant year for the park was 1976, when the Atlanta Botanical Gardens, they rented or leased the northern part of the property to develop it to what it has become today.
And both parks have just gone through a major renovation. So the Botanical Gardens have expanded their meeting space, the gardens themselves, which now can accommodate the symphony in the main part of this park. We also have the movies in the summertime as well. Those are on the northern part of the park near the Botanical Gardens, and there's concerts in the Botanical Gardens. You know, I would suggest that if you wanted to become more active with these areas, you join the Piedmont Park Conservancy or become a member of the Botanical Gardens. Once a member of the Botanical Gardens, you've got a private restaurant with a cool rooftop view there. You also have exclusive access to any of the events that are happening, the concert series, and of course, the big fundraiser once a year, which is also a pretty cool event.
Absolutely. And as we said, including the Dogwood Festival, the Arts Festival, it's, Gay Pride is also held here.
And let's talk about Gay Pride real quick, because if you're new to the area, Gay Pride and the rest of the major metropolitan areas are held in June, Stonewall Day. However, the park has postponed this because of just use and access to the park in October. I tell you though, the weather is much calmer in the fall. It's cooler. It's actually a much nicer time to be in the park in the south.
It's true. And one of the best festivals that's held in the park is Music Midtown.
Huge festival. It's moved a couple different places around town, but now I think it's found its permanent home here. They shut the park and the surrounding streets down, well, at least 10th Street down, for those 2 days. This is Piedmont Park. Come discover it with us.